Isn't it? So what does Derbyshire have in common with Paris? I alluded to this earlier on. More than you might have suspected, more than I knew till this morning, the Bennerley Viaduct, which spans the Erewash Valley, was built with the same material and construction used to build the Eiffel Tower. Anyway, it's going to be transformed into a multi-million-pound cycle and walking track. The cycling charity Sustrans has just got £40,000 towards the project. Hayley Compton's been to meet the man behind the plan.
Every time I come down here, I just marvel at it. You've got these lattice work piers that are sitting on brick, and there is a platform which goes all the way across the top to the other side. It's like a giant piece of Meccano. It really is an iconic structure that defines this valley, and it's such a tragedy that over the last 50 years it's just been marooned on its own. There's no access on either side to get on top of the viaduct.
Former teacher Kieran Lee now works for cycling charity Sustrans. He walks daily in the Erewash Valley and has admired the Bennerley Viaduct for many years.
All the parts, they were constructed in Derby, they were brought out here, and then they were assembled on site, rivet by rivet. It's the same structure as the Eiffel Tower. It's made out of wrought iron, and there's probably something like, I'd say, 1 million rivets that have gone into putting this viaduct together.
It's the largest viaduct of its kind in the country and was built in 1877.
It's part of the Great Northern Railway. It was a rival railway company to the Midland Railway, and they wanted to primarily have access to the coalfields in Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire, and that was the prime reason why it was built. I think at one stage something like 50% of the coal that was being burnt in London came from this area, and they needed the railways to get the coal down to London.
The viaduct closed in 1964 and British Rail looked at ways to dismantle the bridge.
Because of the structure, which is wrought iron, you can't cut it with oxyacetylene torches, so the only way to dismantle this viaduct would be rivet by rivet, and when the tenders came in they were astronomical, and so I think British Rail had a second thought and think, well, what else can we do with this? The local community have always been interested in it, and now we're at the stage where we're actually looking at reopening the viaduct.
How much work is going to be needed on the viaduct before it can reopen?
There's quite a lot of work. I mean, Heritage Lottery Fund have been very generous. They've just given us a grant of £40,000, and that is to do things like to create a waymark trail around the viaduct so people can learn about its history. And we're producing materials for local schools.
Sustrans will need more cash to reopen the bridge, but are looking to the local community to back the project.
And the more support that we get, the better the chance that we have of reopening it.
Running underneath the iron structure is the River Erewash, which marks the boundary from one county to the next.
We are currently on the Derbyshire side of the river here. On the other bank we have Nottinghamshire. When the viaduct is finally open, you will be able to cycle or walk your dog or do whatever from Nottinghamshire to Derbyshire, which will be quite nice.
Will there be border controls there?
Well, there's a bit of friction between Nottinghamshire and Derby, but I mean, this is something which genuinely unites both communities. I mean, I live in Eastwood at this side, but the people on Ilkeston side, they are equally as enthusiastic about getting this viaduct open.
Yeah. Notice he talks about going from Nottinghamshire to Derbyshire, which would be quite nice. It's fascinating, that, isn't it? Really, really good. Thank you. Kieran Lee talking there to our reporter Hayley Compton at the Bennerley Viaduct in the Erewash Valley. Sort of a bit like the Eiffel Tower, only nothing like it. But there is the connection there, as you heard. If you want to find out more about that, maybe get involved in the project, by the way, there's a website which you can go to, which is bennerleyviaduct.org.uk.